You're in.
All right, Kevin McCloskey coming to you with the first week playoff preview. My guest tonight, Fred Gailey. Fred with Carolina Preps and a well-known figure around Western Alamance. Knows a lot about what's going on in the high school football world, and Fred has some insight on our first opponent, Southern Durham. He's seen him play a few times. So Fred, welcome. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you coming out.
Thanks for having me.
All right. First of all, I'm going to change the name of this segment. For the past few years, we've called it the Road to the Ring. As of now, it will be called the Road to the Next Round, because we're going to focus one round at a time. I don't want to see any players or anybody putting rings out there on Twitter or Facebook. All we have to do is get through Friday night, and then we'll worry about the next round. So this is the Road to the Next Round.
That's right. 1-0 this week.
That's it. 1-0. Again, like we were told last week, we don't have to be the best team in the state on Friday night, just the best team on the field. Our opponent, Southern Durham. Just a quick rundown on who. To the best of my knowledge, we've never played them. If we played them, it was way before my time, because I've never seen them. I've never seen Western play them. Their nickname is the Spartans. Of course, they're out of Durham, coached by Darius Robinson. They'll be a red and white team. Also, I've seen on film they like to wear gray a little bit. I'm not sure what they'll wear here. They finished 7-4 this year, their overall record, and most of those losses coming early in the year. They were 5-1 in the conference, so they were in second place in their conference, just like us, Fred. Their conference champion was Orange.
Yes.
Now, one thing that's different from them is where we barely lost to our conference champion, Eastern Guilford. They were pretty much slaughtered by Orange mid-season. However, that was their last loss. They ripped off 5 in a row since then.
6 games ago, right?
Yeah, so they put up, and since then they put up some big numbers. They're ranked, again, Max Preps is a great source for information. They're ranked number 125 in the state, whereas Western Alamance is number 49. So I think on paper, Western Alamance would be the favorite. We are the higher seed. We're at home. They put up 386 points this year, points against 243. As I mentioned, a 5-game winning streak, and they're putting up numbers like 41, 58, 46, 49, 67 against weaker opponents whose combined record was 20 and 34. So Fred, all that being said, does this jive with what you've seen on Southern Durham?
It does, but don't let any of that fool you. I mean, Southern Durham's a very capable team, and they're a well-coached team. Their coaches do try to light a fire under them. One thing that really stands out to me about Southern Durham is when they get off the bus, they're huge. They're big. They're physically as big. The only team that compares that Western has played is probably Butler in terms of size. They've got some really large linemen, some really tall receivers, but they don't quite play like Butler. They don't quite have the speed of a Butler or an Eastern Guilford, but they are a very large team. They're a very capable team.
This is one of those teams that said they pass the looks test and can actually intimidate you just by looking at them. So one thing we have to be careful of is either not to get intimidated, which I don't think we will, or overhyped to say, oh, we're going to do whatever.
Yeah, so you have to. You still have to play the game, even though they look very intimidating. Western can play with them. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah. Southern Durham last year, just if you guys don't know, they made it to the 3AA state championship game. They lost pretty handily to Crest. But the game before that, the semifinals, they beat Northern Guilford just barely. In fact, Northern Guilford probably woulda, coulda, shoulda won that game. So if that's any indication, I'm guessing that last year's Southern Durham team was probably better than this year's. And the fact that we know what we did, we beat Northern Guilford last year, so we know how we measure up there. It's hard to say we played X and X played Y. That doesn't really work in football, but it's something.
It's a comparator that you have. I mean, yeah, it's natural to compare schedules and look at common opponents and opponents and stuff like that. But you do mention a good point. Southern Durham over the last several years does have a pedigree. They state championship game last year, were finalists, but ended up losing. And I think it was not the year before, 2 years ago, so 3 years ago total. They actually won the state championship, and that's when they had Kendall Hinton, who's now
Wake Forest.
He was kind of Superman for them. Man. Kind of like the logo on Southern Durham's helmet, it's the Superman logo.
We'll find out on Friday. Now, I looked at their offense. You've seen some tape too. What I noticed, they look a lot like us as far as they seem to run a spread, kind of read option type attack, fairly balanced. Averaging 239 yards passing per game, 162 on the ground. There are a lot of seniors on the team from what I noticed. Very heavily.
A lot, and with playoff seasoning since they made the title game last year. Those same players were on the team.
Good point.
And you're exactly right. They do run the ball and throw the ball. I think from what I've seen, they prefer to throw the ball. So they're going to sling it around 20, 25 times a game for sure. But they're very capable of running the ball with the quarterback and the running back that they have. Their quarterback is a dual threat.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, his last name is Green. He wears number 7. I think it's Javon Green. I'm not sure. Jalen Green. 2,169 yards passing with 18 TDs, and is also one of the leading rushers with 492 yards and 5 more TDs on the ground. His other favorite receivers, we were talking earlier this week, apparently they have at least 2 or 3 receivers that are in the 6'4", 6'5" range, even 6'6" as a tight end.
They do.
So we're going to have to watch out for that. The little bit of video I saw, the quarterback, Green, he just likes to sling the ball down the field and let them play jump ball. So our DBs, we're going to have to make sure we're getting some guys with some height. Otherwise, they'll just literally out-jump us.
Exactly. They don't throw a lot of timing routes or anything like that. They like to throw the ball down the field, across the middle. It's not a lot of out patterns and stuff like that where it's all based on timing. They try to let their athleticism take over and their height take over. In addition to number 15 is a very tall receiver. I think his last name's Cooper. Montreal Cooper, I think it is. He's probably one of the favorite targets as well as number 2, Santonio Marshall.
Right.
He's not as big as the others, but he's a speedy guy. And he'll get down the field on you.
Yeah, speaking of Cooper is number 15. He was their leading receiver with 559 yards and 4 touchdowns. McDonald, number 6, had 544 yards and 3 touchdowns. Marshall, who you mentioned, 442. So they're spreading that ball around. They also have a senior who goes by the nickname of Turtle McLam, number 8, and he had 289 yards. So those are guys we have to watch out when they throw the ball. Fred already mentioned dual threat quarterback. When they decide to run the ball, have to watch out for the quarterback keeper, much like us. And they also have running back number 5, last name Strong, who is their leading rusher with 690 yards and 12 touchdowns, and a sophomore on number 1 with almost 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, Buford. So
right.
They got a plethora of talented backs.
They have a lot of weapons, a lot of guys that can hurt you with their speed. They like to run that lead option with the quarterback. They lean pretty heavily on the quarterback, on his legs and his arm, obviously. Natural with the dual threat quarterback. But number 5, Joey Strong, he can run the ball too. I was trying to think of somebody to compare him to that Western's played, and in terms of the quarterback, he reminds me a little bit of Hayden Mann from Eastern in terms of he can throw the ball and run. He doesn't run quite as hard as Bryant Barr from Eastern Guilford, but he is very, very dangerous, like Hayden Mann. So
Fred, when Western Alamance has the ball, when we're on offense, what do you think we need to do to attack this Southern Durham defense?
I think Western has to be Western. They have to spread the ball around and use all their weapons. Obviously, Southern Durham is going to focus on Pooh. That's natural for any team. If you just look at his numbers, you look at his size, you look at what he's done in the past, all teams are going to focus on him. And we do have to get Pooh touches. That's a given. But I think having all 3 of the horsemen, as I call them, back, and Christian back, Christian, Jake, and Pooh, I think you have to get all them touches, and also use the other guys that complement them very well, like Perry and DJ and Trayvon and Keontae. I think Western can run the ball on them, and I think they can also have success passing. That doesn't mean it'll be easy, but I think Southern Durham's strength is probably their offense as opposed to their defense. So I think that if Western just needs to spread the ball around, stay focused, and hit. That's the one thing that they're a big team, but if Western hits them, they'll have success.
It's kind of how you get a bully. You hit them in the mouth, right?
Exactly.
Figuratively, not literally, obviously. Now let's flip it around. We're going to put Western on defense now, trying to stop this high-powered offense. Seems to me like the key is going to be for us to be disciplined, to watch our keys, not get sucked in, especially the defensive backs, and have some help over the top. We've got to have some safeties coming over, some of the guys with height. DJ going both ways, Christian probably going both ways, guys that are over 6 feet tall that can combat with these extremely tall receivers.
Exactly. I think the defensive ends containing the edge on the run and getting a good pass rush. Southern Durham's quarterback does not throw the ball quite as well on the run, like most quarterbacks at the high school level. He doesn't throw it as well on the run. So if we can get pressure on him, I've noticed he tends to miss high a little bit, and that might open up some opportunities. Then he'll just tuck and run. So if the defensive ends can get some pressure, maybe get some pressure up the middle where I think it's available, then Western can have some success. If they let him stand there and throw to these big receivers all day long, that's a recipe for trouble.
Yeah, one thing we learned from that Eastern Guilford loss, though, is if we should get behind, we know we have the ability to come back on them because we did it once and we can do it again. So that's something that we can hang our hats on. As far as just logistics in the game, obviously it's going to be Friday night. I looked at the weather. Weather looks great. It's going to be a little bit warmer even. So there's no reason for these fans not to come out. Guys, I know the last week or so, and even in some of the games, the crowd sizes have been there, and we've focused on things like from the student section, you get extremely creative ideas. This week I want you to focus on one thing, that's making noise, especially when Southern Durham has the ball on a third down. We got to have an advantage, a true home crowd advantage. So, Fred, anything else you'd like to add to this?
I agree with you on the home crowd advantage. One thing I do know about Southern Durham, they're not going to bring a big crowd. They don't. It's unfortunate for them. I was at the state championship game last year, and the state title game at UNC, not far from, really far from Southern Durham, they probably had 200 people.
So
200, maybe 250 tops. So I'll be real surprised if they bring more than 100, 150 people.
Yes.
I mean tops. And that's sad for them, but it will give Western definitely the home field advantage that they need to take advantage of.
Yeah.
You know, so if the crowd's loud, there's not going to be a big crowd on the other side cheering them on. They're kind of by themselves, and so I think the crowd can definitely make a difference.
Yeah. Fred, the one area we haven't talked about, we've talked about offense, defense, and even the crowd and what we need out of them. But the forgotten part of the game a lot of times, and it shouldn't be because it's special for a reason, special teams. What do you think, how do things shape up there based on what you've seen? I honestly don't know anything about their capabilities.
From what I saw of Southern Durham, I think Western has an advantage in special teams. Their punter, not bad, but tends to kick some line drives. I know they gave up at least one or two. I know against Orange they gave up a punt return touchdown. And also kickoffs, they gave up a kickoff return to Cedar Ridge. So I think Western can look to get an advantage in the kicking game, either whether it be flipping field position, gaining field position, or maybe even scoring on a punt return or a kickoff return. Other than that, just play solid on special teams. We can't afford mistakes, bad snaps, and things like that. So I've seen Southern Durham have a couple of those. That's one area that Western needs to just focus on. Not, what they say, take care of the little things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't have the bad snaps, the missed assignments on special teams, and you might open up some things for Western to flip the field.
Well, that pretty much covers it. All we have to talk about. Again, I encourage you to come out there. Don't sit at home. The weather's going to be great. There's no reason to stay home. You come out there and cheer on the Warriors, and we want to be back next week. One thing about special teams, Fred, at the first of the year, Western almost broke a couple of kicks for touchdowns, and I promised in my Monday morning quarterback article, I said, you guys pay attention when we have the ball, because we're going to score a couple of touchdowns this year on special teams. And we haven't done it yet. So somebody's got to make me look good on Friday night. Jake, I don't know who else is going to be back there, but return a kick for me for a touchdown, please. So Fred, thank you again for coming over, and we look forward to hopefully doing it again next week.
That'd be great. Look forward to it.